Okay, hi everyone, so we're carrying on with algebra today, and we're still looking at simplifying, but we're looking at simplifying when we're doing multiplication. So before we start, just a quick puzzle. So we've got one at the top there. So what we've got here, we've got 7, something beginning with D in A, something beginning with W. And that one is 7 days in a week. So have a look at these, see if you can work out what the missing words in red are. So they'll all be stuff you've heard of. So you've got how many of them on this column here. You've got something beginning with this letter and something beginning with this letter. I'll put the answers in a second, so have a think about these. So the number should give you a hint. So for the last one, I'll start with that one. I'll give this one away. So if you've not made any progress with it yet, don't worry. I'll reveal the last one that might help you along your way. So this is 366 days in a leap year. So now that you've got another example one, see if you can come up with any of the others. So think, what things have we got that there's 8 of, what have we got that's 52 of? Okay, the answers are, we've got 8 legs on a spider, 52 cards in a pack, no jokers, and the last one, 366 days in a leap year. So really well done if you got them, bit of thinking outside the box to get started. Okay, so what we did yesterday, we looked at how we simplify expressions when we've got various things with algebra added together. So what we're going to be looking at today is how we do them when we're multiplying. So the key thing with this is thinking about what multiplication actually means. So if we've got 2 times t, what that is 2 lots of t. So basically, when we're dealing with algebra, if you've got 2 times, or a number times a letter, rather than writing it as 2 times t, we write it just as 2t. And what that means is 2 lots of t. So 2 times t, so t add t, we write that as 2t. So let's have a look at this next example and see if we can apply that. So if we had m times t, how could we write that? So if we had 2 times t, that becomes 2t. If we have m times t, that actually becomes mt. So if you see 2 letters next to each other like this, that's not one algebraic term, that's 2 multiplied together. So what that means is m lots of t. So I know that's a bit weird because m isn't a real number in this sense, but we can treat it just like a number. Okay, so this third one, again, a little bit trickier now because we've got a 2 in front of the t. So what does it mean if we're timesing something by 3? It means we've got 3 lots of it. So let's write this out in full and see if we can work out our answer, and then see if we can work out the rule. So if we've got 2t times 3, that means we've got 3 lots of 2t. So if we write out 2t and 2t and 2t, think about what we did yesterday. What would we get if we collected the like terms on this? What would we get if we added all those together? So when we saw yesterday, we saw if we've got the same term, we can add them. So we do 2 add 2 add 2, which is 6t. So what pattern can we see? We've got 2t times 3. What have we done to 2 and 3 to get 6? Well done if you work that out. We've got 2t times 3 equals 60. So what we've done is we've times the numbers together. So we've done 2 times 3 lots of t. So when we have ones like this, we can times the numbers together and then times the letters. So really what we've got here, we've got 2 times t, so that's 2t, and then we're timesing by 3 from here. So what we're really doing is we're kind of changing the order that we're doing it round by. So we're doing 2 times 3 and then times t. So then we can do the 2 times 3, which is 6, and then times by t, which is 6t. So the key part of this is that we're multiplying the numbers and then the letters. So we're changing the order to make it easier to do. Okay, so this third one we did is really crucial, so I'm going to do another couple of examples like that to try and get what we have to do across, because it is really important. So if we've got 3t times 4, what that is 4 lots of 3t. But what we saw is rather than writing 3t add 3t add 3t add 3t, there is a quicker way to do this. So what we can do, because we know that 3t is 3 times t, and we know then that we're timesing it by 4 afterwards, because we've got 3t times 4, so it's 3 times t times 4. Rather than doing it in this order, we can switch around the order. So as long as we're timesing all 3 of these things together, it doesn't matter what order we do. So rather than 3 times t, then times 4, we can do 3 times 4, then times t. So what we can do then is 3 times 4, which is 12, and then times t, so that is 12 times t, or 12t. So the key thing is that we can times the numbers and then times the letters. So last thing is I'd like to have a go at this one. So 2 times 5t. If you want to pause and have a go, you can. If you want to just watch me go through it, that is fine as well. Okay, so 2 times 5t. So we've got 2 times 5 times t. So then we're going to times 2 and 5 to get 10. So we've got 10 times t, which is 10t. So the other way we can check our answer, so we can do 2 lots of 5t. So we've got 5t plus 5t. We can see that that is indeed 10t. So personally, I would go for this way though, because this will be more useful for more questions, because this, it won't work when we start getting onto the harder questions. So I would go definitely for this method where you times the numbers and then times the algebra. Okay, so let's have a go at some tougher ones. Let's get a bit trickier again. So example D, we've got 3y times 2m. So the first thing we're going to do is write it out in full. So we're going to write 3 times y times 2 times m. And then what we're going to do is jumble around the order, because we saw it's fine for us to mix the order up. So let's do numbers first, so 3 times 2. And then we're going to do times m times y. It doesn't really matter which way around the letters go. Okay, so then we do 3 times 2, which is 6. And then we've got 6 times m, and then times y. So we're going to write this as 6my. And what that means is that is 6 times m times y, and they're all together. And we can see that that is definitely a little bit simpler than what we started with. And that is what we're trying to do, we're trying to simplify. And we can't do anything else with this because 6m and y, we don't know what m and y are, so we can't times them anymore. So we just leave it as 6my, that would be our final answer for that one. Okay, so here's one a little bit to think about. So if we've got t multiplied by t, before we start thinking about this, I want you just to have a think about how could we write it if we have a number times by itself. So if we have 2 times 2, how could we write that? If we had 3 times 3, how could we write there's a word for it beginning with s. Okay, so it's squared. So 2 times 2 is 2 squared. We write that with a little 2 like that to show that it's times by itself. 3 times 3 would be 3 squared. And notice I've put a 2 there, that's because that is how many of itself we've times together. So 4 times 4, we'd write that as 4 squared to show that that is times by itself 2 times. So here we've got t multiplied by t. How do we think we could write t times t? So look at the pattern. So we've got 2 times 2 is 2 squared, 3 times 3 is 3 squared, 4 times 4 is 4 squared. What do we think t times t would be? If you've guessed t squared, you are right on the money. T times t is t squared. So very well done if you managed that. And we're going to use that in our next one to work out what this is. So we've got 2p times 4p. So 2p times 4p. So again, thinking back to what we did over here, we're going to write it out in full. So 2 times p times 4 times p. And then from there, we're going to try and mix up the order to make it more easy to do. So we're going to change the order to put numbers first. So 2 times 4. And then we've got times p times p. So the first thing we can do 2 times 4. That gives us 8. So think over to what we did here. What would p times p be? So we know that t times t was t squared. So p times p, that would be p squared. So we have 8 times p squared, or 8p squared. And it's really important to remember this is just the p that is squared, it's not the 8 as well. So we don't put it in brackets or anything, we just leave it as 8p squared. So definitely a bit tougher there, so don't worry if you're getting a bit stuck. We are going to be doing a lot of practice with all of these. Just wanted to get it all done in the examples, and then we can do lots of practice. Okay, so the key steps though, so step 1 is change the order of the multiplication so that the numbers are together and the algebraic terms are together. So basically write it out in full and then change the order. And step 2 is do the multiplication and simplify any bits you can. So if you have something like a times a, simplifying it to a squared. Okay, so a couple of challenge ones to have a think about before we start on the task. So if you want to pause the video now and have a go at these, see if you can work these ones out, that'd be a good idea. Okay, so assuming you've either paused the video now or you are going to just watch me do it. So let's make a start on this first one. So I've got 7x times 8x. So step 1 was write it out in full. So I've got 7 times x. Notice that I'm doing my multiplication symbol small, my x is big and curly so I can tell the difference. So I've got 7 times x times 8 times x. So then I'm going to change the order up. So I've got the numbers together, so 7 times 8. Then I've got times, we've got x times x as well. Okay, so then I do 7 times 8, which is 56. And x times x, so I've got something times by itself, so that would be x squared. So if you're getting the hang of this, that's really good because this is really tough stuff. So really good work. Right, and if you hadn't got the bonus question, really impressive. Let's go through how we do this one. So this is definitely the top end stuff, so really tough. So we've got 4 times x times 8 times y. So we put the numbers together, so 4 times 8, and then we've got times x times y. So we start off to 4 times 8, which is 32, and then we've got times x times y, so x times y, we just write that as x, y. Because we don't know x or y, we can't do anything more with it than that, so we just leave it as 32 x, y. And if you want a mega challenge question, you can have a go at this, but this is above what we need at the moment. You don't need to be able to do these ones. So these ones will be on the extension section of the question sheet, so that's the 3-star ones. So if you do want to have a go at these, test yourself, do have a go. If you're happy just to stick with the 1 and 2, which is what you need to be able to do, you don't need the 3-star ones, they're ahead of what you need. Have a go at these. So we've got 3x times 4y times 2x. So again, we're going to write out in full 3 times x times 4 times y times 2 times x. So loads of things times together. But the idea is still the same. We're still going to take the numbers and put them together at the start. So we've got 3 times 4 times 2. And then we're going to take all the letters and put them together as well. So we've got times x times y. And notice I've put the x's next to each other. That is because we're going to be able to do something with them in a second. So then I'll take all the numbers, so I'll do 3 times 4 times 2. So 3 times 4 is 12, times 2 is 24. And then here I've got x times x. So x times x we saw is x squared. And then I've just got y left over, so I've got 24x squared y. So it looks a bit weird because we've got a squared in the middle, but you can get this. It's just if one of the things is squared and the things around it aren't. Okay, so just a quick warm up before you go on to the main task to check that you've got it. I will be going through the answers to these on the slides in a second, so if you have a go, so pause the video and then I'll go through the answers. Okay, so for the first one we've got 3x times 2, so that's 2 lots of 3x, so I'm going to show it 2 different ways, so I'm going to do 3 times x times 2. So it should be an x. I don't know why it's glitched out like that. So we can then change the order to be 3 times 2 times x. So 3 times 2 is 6, and then times x gives us 6x. Okay, so we can see that what we can do, we can times the numbers and then times the letters. So let's do that with the others because it's a bit quicker. Okay, so 6 times 3, because we've got 6x times 3, so 6 times 3 gives us 18, and times x gives us 18x. So you could write it out, so 6 times x times 3, which is then 6 times 3 times x, which is then 18x. But when you're confident with it, you can do it in less steps. Okay, so this one we're going to do it the faster way. We're going to times the numbers, then times the letters. So 2 times 4 gives us 8, and times the letters, a. So the answer is 8a. Next one, times the numbers. So 3 times 2 is 6, then times the letters, which is b. So we end up with 6b. And last one, again we're going to take the shortcut and we're going to times the numbers and times the letters. So 4 times 2 gives us 8. A times b gives us ab. So answer overall is AAB. Okay, so when you've done these and you're happy with them, have a go at the task on the next slide. I'll also load it as a document on Firefly as well. Okay, here is the main task for today. Ignore me on the previous slide when I was talking about different star level tasks. I've switched the worksheet that I'm doing, so there isn't any stars, there's just section 1, section 2 now. So don't worry about that. So section 1 is the more straightforward ones, but section 2 is a little bit trickier. So there's a couple of bits where there's a hint as well. So in the red box, there's a bit of extra help. So they're kind of done for you. So just being aware of that. Okay, so starting with section A, I'm going to go through some answers as well. So pause the video while you're having a go at these. I will attach it as a separate worksheet though, so if you want to work from that, that is fine. Okay, so for question 1, we've got A times B. So when we've got that, we don't have any numbers, we don't need to worry about that, we've just got AB. Similar, Z times Y, we can just write that as ZY. Also, something to note, you can write it either way around, so you could write it as YZ, you'd get the answer either way. Okay, B times B, we saw one like this earlier in the lesson, so B times B is B squared. Okay, so if we have B times C, so we know that B times B is B squared, so times C, that should give us B squared C. Okay, so question 5 isn't one we've seen actually. So this is D times D times D. So this one, it would actually be D to the power of 3, because we're timesing it by itself 3 times. So we've got D and then the little 3 to show that it's 3 times. So don't worry if you didn't get that one, because we've not seen ones like that yet. Okay, question 6, we've got 3D. So we've got 3 times D, so we just write that as 3D. Question 7, we've got 3 times D times C. So we times, so we've got the 3 at the front, and then it's just DC afterwards. So again, you can switch the order to get 3CD, sorry. Either answer would be fine. Question 8 has been done for us already, that's 10D squared. So question 9, okay, carrying on from question 9, so we've got 9 times T, sorry, 6 times T times 2 times times 2t times t. So I'm going to write this out at the bottom and go through this one. So we've got 6 times t, and then we've got times 2t, so I'll write that as times 2 times t, and then times t. So I've written out in full, that was step 1. Step 2 is to change the order around to make it easier to work out. So I've got 6 times 2, so we've got the numbers together, and then we've got t times t times t. So 6 times 2 gives us 12, and then t times t times t. Like we saw with question 5, if you've got 3 of the same letter times together, that would be t cubed, or t to the power of 3. What that means is it's times by itself 3 times. Okay, question 10, we've got 7 times a times b times c, so that is 7abc. And on to section 2, these ones are a bit tougher, but more like the hard ones we saw today. So we've got the first one, 3a times b, so it's 3 times a times b, so that is 3ab. So question 2, we've got 3a times 2b. So again, we can times the numbers and then times the letters, so we end up with 6ab. Question 3, we've got 4y times 5x. So we times the numbers and then times the letters, so that gives us 20xy. Question 4, again, times the numbers times the letters, so we do 5 times 2, which is 10, times 4 is 40, and then we've got g times h, so our final answer will be 40gh. And last one, we've got 2a times 2b times c, so that would be 4abc. So times the numbers to get 4, times the letters to get abc.